then you go into Screencast-O-Matic, and then you select both on the screen, for whether it's screen or webcam or both, so you want both. And then when you've got the recording box, it's a dotted line around the edge, so you just expand the dotted line so that you've got extra space to the right or wherever it is on your screen that you want to position that thumbnail video box, so that you're not overlapping onto your slides, and that's the trick for doing that effectively, and you don't need to worry about any overlaps. Okay, so she does very well, and she starts by sharing with us the very brief overview. Now, I'm not going to play this directly for you, but I'm going to share with you how she goes about taking it all together. So she delivers the introduction first, tells us what the structure is going to be, and then what she does here is that she starts by taking part one, the statement and the argument that you're trying to address. Managers need to be reflective professional practitioners in order to be effective at work. Now, you don't have to have those words on the top of the screen, but she has done there. What she's then done is she's provided different references, and what you'll notice here is there's a couple, like Kolb, and one or two others that have been used in the reading list and on Moodle, but she's got several references throughout the whole presentation that are evidence of wider reading. So what she's done here is she's provided quotes from those references. Now, I don't necessarily need you to put the full quote in, but where Ria earned the maximum marks was that she then applied that perspective from each of those sources and said in practice, as well as critiquing and analysing why those perspectives were important in helping us to answer the question whether or not managers need to be reflective professional practitioners in order to be effective at work. And she uses various different case study companies to bring it to life. So if you remember, I'm asking you the whole time to make sure that you're balancing the academic with the practical, so that you're applying this, and we're giving you extra marks for doing that application, but then the depth of analysis that comes from that. So what was Myers trying to talk about? Who were Ayas and Zeliak? What was it that Belton, Gould and Scott could offer that few others were able to do? What was it in their research in particular that was fascinating, or what was it in each of those perspectives that builds a bigger picture? So what Ria did particularly well was that she was able to say, on the one hand, as we see in that bottom left-hand corner, reflection is fundamental to learning, and that provides a basis for future action. Well, that only goes so far, because if we're trying to look at reflection and thinking beyond the superficial elements, this middle one, Myers 2013 in the bottom middle there, what do we mean by these superficial elements? Where Carol Dweck, for example, when we talk about fixed and growth mindset in a second, Carol Dweck, in her interview in 2012, talks about how concerned she was that the superficial elements were being considered in fixed and growth mindset, where people started to actually reduce the meaning of the process of fixed versus growth, because they were seeing it in black and white terms. They were seeing it purely as fixed is bad and therefore negative, and growth is positive and therefore to be encouraged. Well, that's not the case. Everybody has an element of both. And the same is true here. Myers' point, which is what Ria is bringing to our attention, is that in order to unlock the key here, as it says, to deeper meaningful learning, we shouldn't accept things at superficial level, at face value, at the reductive black and white thinking. And in actual fact, in order to achieve that deeper meaningful learning, then we've got to go deeper than the surface level information. So do you remember in, I think it was week 4, when we were looking at coaching, and we were looking at the, do you remember the picture on the screen that we had, deep versus surface communication, and we had the iceberg, do you remember? And the iceberg picture shows that what's visible from the surface is only possibly 10%, because under the surface, under the water, which is what is not visible, could be up to 90% of what we're talking about. 90% of the iceberg is not visible from the surface. And so we need to go deeper in order to fully explore, rather than just the binary black and white reflection is important, therefore that's the end of the story. We need to go much, much deeper. Same for growth versus fixed mindset. It's not just about good and bad, positive and negative. It goes far, far deeper than that. And the more evidence you can provide for that, the higher your marks are going to be, because we want you to ask the question and answer the question, okay, so what? Rather than just saying, okay, this is what this is all about, and describing it and explaining it. This is level 6 now. We want you to provide academic underpinning for suggesting why that's important. Answering the question, so what? And where and how is this more meaningful in certain places? So if we're using a retail example, or it could be any sector of your choice, then why is it important for retail managers to be reflective practitioners? Especially if you're in an industry, for example, that's very, very fast and dynamic and very fiercely competitive. So grocery retail, for example, so places like Tesco, Asda, Morrison's, Aldi, Lidl, whoever you want to use as examples here. And Ria gives examples of Boots, so she chose her workplace to focus some of these examples on. It's absolutely critical that we can say, what are the implications in practice for this? So with fast-moving consumer goods, for example, so with grocery retail, we used to have a Monday meeting for managers where we would review performance of the previous week, we would evaluate progress, we would review our